Welcome to Stocks to Watch, our exclusive one-on-one series with executives to help you make informed investment decisions. I'm Ashley Berry, and we're welcoming Chris Frostad, President and CEO of Purepoint Uranium Group, an exploration company focused on the precision exploration of its projects in the Canadian Athabasca Basin, which is the world's richest uranium region. The company is trading on the TSXV as PTU and the OTCQB in the United States as PTUUF. Really looking forward to our conversation, Chris. Welcome.
Thank you, Ashley. Good to be here.
So as a uranium exploration company, you must be constantly monitoring the prices of this commodity. You also just released news about upcoming plans with an encouraging emphasis on the price of uranium and how this will work in your favor. Perhaps you can talk a little bit about that and what long-term trends you're noticing.
Wow. Well, there's a big question. Well, a few things, I guess. Purepoint Uranium has been around for a while, so we've seen a couple of these cycles, and we seem to be coming very quickly out of a down cycle in uranium. We have 9 projects in northern Saskatchewan, which is where all of Canada's uranium comes from. 2 of those are joint ventures we have with Cameco and Orano, who are 2 of the world's largest suppliers of uranium. And yes, we absolutely keep a very close eye on the price of uranium and all the things that come out of that. For the last 10 years, we've been in a bit of a down cycle, which all sort of started back in 2011 when Kazakhstan had been flooding the market with low-cost uranium, and ultimately when the tsunami tragically hit Japan, they wound up shutting off all of their reactors in an abundance of caution, which shut down about 10% of the world's nuclear fleet. So after that, we did see prices in uranium drop rapidly because we had a big overhang of uranium. And for the last 10 years or so, through that period, we saw mines being shut down because they were no longer economic. We saw a lot of projects being put off and deferred because they were not economic. And we're not even quite yet back to that point where the price of uranium does allow new mines to be opened up or ones that have been shut down to be turned back on. So I think what's happened over the last while as we see that supply balance coming back into form. From the last 3 to 5 years, I think we've been producing 20 to 30% less uranium than the world consumes. So we've been right-sizing that overhang of uranium, and we're now through all of that inventory. And so with that coming into bear, as well as the excitement around nuclear in general really starting to pick up steam, we're seeing a real supply gap. And as a result, the price of uranium, particularly over the last month or so, has taken a real jump and is starting to get back to those levels where we can start considering opening up mines again. So we're really along for an exciting ride right now.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're talking about, right sizing that overhang, that obviously has to bode very well for your company, for shareholders, for those that are interested perhaps in your company. Very curious about your exploration methods and techniques and really how you mitigate uncertainty.
Well, where we look for uranium in northern Saskatchewan is a very unique spot in the world. We find it's mostly focused on finding high grade uranium, and by high grade, it's freakishly high. So we're looking at 20%, 10% uranium with pockets as high. Actually, there was a deposit just announced a year and a half ago at 45% uranium, which is crazy. So, but these things do form in small pods, so they're no bigger than a football field, buried half a mile under the world. So they're not all that easy to find, and it does take time. So when these deposits are identified, just know that it is it wasn't an overnight success and somebody poked a hole in the ground. There's usually years of geophysics and analysis and interpretation, sampling that goes on before you even hit that first big hole. So we spend a lot of time up front and have spent a lot of time up front investing in the geophysics, in the surface surveys, in a lot of the information that's required to really cull it down and really narrow it down to a spot that you then start selectively drilling to continue looking for, because you can't find anything unless you poke a hole in it. And we've been able now over the last little while, as things have been a little slower, to make sure that all of our projects are now ready to take a drill. and everything we do from this point forward will be drilling, which really does kind of put us ahead of the game, because a lot of the folks that are new to the area are really just starting back a few steps, getting their projects ready for drilling.
Whereas you are getting ready for these milestones, it sounds like. We also know that uranium is a small market, Chris, but it's very, very important. And we talked about this. What advice would you give to investors looking to add uranium to their investment portfolio, and what they should specifically focus on?
Sure. Well, the thing about uranium, as you mentioned, it is a small market, and it doesn't take a lot of money to push it around. And there are really, when we count the number of investment opportunities out there, it's in terms of dozens, not hundreds. So I think it would behoove a lot of investors to look to carry a number of opportunities. There's a number of ways to invest in uranium through ETFs or directly in the mining companies like a Cameco, but then to really to look at a lot of the companies that are in development, exploration, and these are the companies that are going to be required to bring a lot of uranium to bear over the next umpteen years as nuclear takes off, and it is taking off. So I think collectively we're going to see everybody's boat rising as the price of uranium continues to rise, and we know it is rising now aggressively and should continue to do so. And I think you're looking for experience. You're looking for people that know what they're up to out there, because there's a lot of newcomers, and it really is going to be a recovery for the incumbents, the people who have been around long enough to have produced uranium before, or have discovered uranium before, or have been working the area, and that's where the real opportunities are to maximize those odds of picking the next discovery.
Absolutely. And Chris, I just want to say, you had mentioned something really interesting, an interesting statistic around uranium that I think most people don't know. And I know that you have some information you want to share. You said 10%. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit on that? Because I found that to be fascinating.
10%. Well, 10% of the world's electricity is generated through nuclear power. Right now in the United States, it's about 40% of their it's 20% of their electricity comes from nuclear power, and in Canada it's about 20%. So it's a big piece of where we get our electricity. Yet the overall market, the industry itself, is very, very small, relatively speaking. If you added up the market caps of all of the public uranium companies you can get your hands on, it still would only equal about the size of a medium-sized mining company. So it is small. It doesn't take a lot of money to bounce it around a lot. And I think as we see a lot of money coming into this market through the excitement of uranium, you're going to see a lot of the equities continue to really, really go for a ride.
So helpful. Chris Frostad, thank you so much. President, CEO of Purepoint Uranium Group, trading on the TSXV as PTU and the OTCQB in the United States as PTUUF. Thank you so much for your time, and welcome to Stocks to Watch. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Ashley.